Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Glad to have with us in the studio Steuben County Democratic Chair and Hornell IDA consultant Shawn Hogan.
Good morning, Brian.
Good to have you here, Shawn.
It's great to be here.
Well, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I do history shows, and if Dr. Ostrower or Dr. Waddy would here, I would be talking about how Kennedy and Nixon had their first presidential debate on this day in history, I believe in 1960.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I was kind of at that 1960. Let me see how old I was. I was 8 or 9 years old, and I probably watched the debate, believe it or not, at 211 Seymour,
right,
which was the home of your beloved grandmother, Molly Dorn.
Sure.
I was raised in a Democratic family. Of course, everyone knows my father was a staunch Democrat and a former mayor of Hornell, ran for Congress a couple of times in the old district. Yeah. And of course, Molly was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat because your grandfather, Patty Dorn, was a Democratic alderman in the city of Hornell.
Right.
So I remember either watching the debate, but I do remember specifically watching the inaugural parade with your grandmother and a lady across the street who was a nurse, Mary Dewey. They lived there where Secondos live now on Spruce Street.
Oh, that's great.
And we watched the inaugural parade in 1961 at 211 Seymour. So, yeah, I remember. I'm dating myself, obviously, because, now I'm probably older now than your grandmother was at that time in 1960.
Yeah, I remember Kevin talking about how she was a big JFK fan.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. Now, the history goes that Nixon won the radio debate and Kennedy won the TV debate because Nixon had that uptight look to him.
Well, yeah, they say because he had that 5 o'clock shadow, and TV was really, when you think about it, in its early days, and a lot of homes didn't even have TV in 1960, believe it or not. So, it was a very close race, as you know, and of course there were allegations that John Kennedy won because of ballot stuffing in Chicago by the Mayor Daley machine. Never investigated, never amounted to anything, but there was a lot of controversy at that time too. We live in a politically highly charged environment now, but if you go back 60 years or longer, you'll find that politics was more civil, but also it's always been a very highly a contact sport.
Sure.
Which is unfortunate, but that's the way it
on the
it plays
topic,
out.
And not to keep going on about the Kennedy-Nixon debates, I think that's a little insulting to say that Kennedy lost the radio debate. I think what they're saying is that he doesn't have any substance, and it's just his personal appearance that won it for
well,
him.
no. I mean, I think he
if
proved...
you listen to his speeches on YouTube, he says some brilliant things.
Oh, yeah. Kennedy had a great bunch of, World War II veterans. That was the next generation. That was the generation coming up, the greatest generation. They were all World War II vets, a lot of them had served their country as young men. Kennedy, I believe, was the youngest president at the time ever elected. He was like 44 years old at the time. So it was a new generation moving into power in this country. And, he wanted to take the nation forward. He had high ideals and great vision for the country. Unfortunately, his life was cut short, and you'll never know what he could have accomplished. But what came after him was LBJ, who the Civil Rights Act never would have been passed. The Voting Rights Act never would have been passed without the influence and the legislative genius of LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. There's a president whose record is forever marred because of the Vietnam War.
Yeah, a lot of people say Johnson was wrong on Vietnam.
But I tell you what,
but right on the civil rights
he was
thing.
one heck of a president as far as of bringing forth legislation that was life-changing. He doesn't get near enough credit. I'm reading a book now called The Passage of Power, and it's a guy, and it's a trilogy, but this is the last of a trilogy about Lyndon Baines Johnson, and he certainly has risen in stature in my mind. And in my heart, after
our
reading
meteorologist Rob Carroll was telling me the other day he's reading that book too.
Right, it's a good thing. And politics back then was different because they actually, Republicans and Democrats actually talked, actually socialized together. And now it's here we are with this what's going on now, and I don't even want to get into this new controversy with the Ukraine. And but that doesn't look good for the president. Reading the released transcript, obviously there are some issues there. And if you're a student of the Constitution, a student of what's right and what's wrong, I think the president has some real serious issues there. But I'd like to get back to a point where the Senate and the House actually pass legislation that would move the country forward. We talked about the infrastructure and how badly needed it is in this country. One of President Trump's main promises was to have a great infrastructure bill in this country. Another one was he was going to reform prescription drugs and bring the costs down. Nothing's happened on that front one way or the other. We had a big thing about, talking or discussing universal background checks after the tragedies in Texas and in California and Ohio. Not a mere mention of that now. So, I don't blame people for being disgusted and being throwing their hands up. We have to get back to serving the people of this country, not serving self-interest. And special interests in this country have too much power over what happens or doesn't happen in Washington.
Do you see are you on Facebook yet?
No, I'm not on Facebook, and I probably will never get on Facebook.
Yeah, when you look, you can see and I have to say both sides are guilty of it. The anger that comes out in some of the political posts, and I just think
it's uncalled for, And the thing is, I just read an article, on Mr. Rogers, and I just watched a beautiful documentary on Mr. Rogers on HBO. People will snicker and laugh and whatever. Mr. Rogers was a wonderful, compassionate, caring human being. And he said there was three important things in life that you have to remember, and three things that are the most important things in life. And the first one is be kind. The second one is be kind. And the third one is be kind. You don't have enough kindness in the world anymore. I mean, there's people that care for people, whatever there, but this person likes Trump. I don't like that person, or this person is is a Democrat. I don't like that person. That type of nonsense. I see people. They go to their houses of worship and they listen, they read the Psalms and they listen to the readings and they listen to the gospel readings, which is all about the good news and about uplifting and forgiveness. And then they leave church and they get on Facebook and they say some of the most vile things that you could ever even imagine. And that goes on both sides. So The one reason I never got on Facebook is because, first of all, I didn't want to give people a forum to continue to blast me. I'm not on Facebook, and I probably get blasted more on Facebook than anyone in the history of the community. So I choose not to partake, and I guess I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I'm shocked at some of the stuff that I see from, like I said, from both sides. I just think to myself, wow, I wouldn't have said that, and this person here is going to have a hard time getting a job if the employers go through and look at all these posts.
And they do. I've known people, young people that have lost jobs because they've gone back and looked at their social media, their Snapchat and their Twitter and their Facebook comments and some of the pictures. People don't realize that once you post that and it's out there forever.
Right.
And, they don't think enough about it. I think they get false courage because they don't have to look at the person face to face, and they can just write whatever they want to write with no consequences. Well, it's unfortunate, and like I say, I want to get off my soapbox on that. But
no, but do you know what I was thinking recently? If everybody, I don't want to hold myself up as a model or anything, but if everybody had the FCC to answer to on Facebook, and if everybody had to have sponsors on Facebook, they might be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, well, not only that, but let's put it this way: one of the greatest gift that God gave mankind is the right of discernment, a conscience, and if you can post some of the things I've seen posted and actually look in the mirror and be comfortable with that man or woman in the mirror, then you better do some soul searching. And like I say, it's on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we live in a very tough time, very partisan time. If I could wave a wand, I'd like to. But again, as Mr. Rogers said, the three most important things in life: be kind, be kind, be kind.
Going to take a quick break. We're talking with Steuben County IDA consultant and Steuben County Democrat, Hornell IDA consultant, Steuben County Democrat Chairman Shawn Hogan. Back in 90 seconds. Stay with us.
Life doesn't stop for appendicitis, or a gallstone, or a hernia. That's why UR Medicine offers minimally invasive general surgery at hospitals throughout the region. Minimally invasive means smaller incisions, and smaller incisions often mean shorter hospital stays, less discomfort, and faster recoveries. So you can get back to the things you love, because life doesn't stop, and you shouldn't have to either. UR Medicine, medicine of the highest order.
Checking in now with little orphan Robbie, who says the sun will come out tomorrow.
Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow the sun will come out.
But it's going to rain first, huh?
Yes, it is. We got a cold front. Right now, rain falling from just outside of Jamestown through Buffalo to west of Rochester. We'll see those showers arrive a couple hours from now, Brian. They're associated with cooler air that's going to be moving into the region for tomorrow and tomorrow night. And then it looks like we warm back up a little bit on Saturday, only to cool things back down for Sunday. We're going to see a series of frontal systems come through. Brian, the big weather story across the country, blizzard that's going to develop in Montana as we head into the weekend. They're going to see some pretty significant snow around Cutbank, Montana, Glasgow, Montana, and Havre, Montana this weekend. But no snow for us. Showers this morning, some clearing possible this afternoon. Breezy, we're 70 to 75. Sunrise this morning was at 7:03. The sun sets tonight at 7 p.m. It is the last 7 o'clock sunset until next spring. Clear tonight, cool, 45 to 50. Tomorrow, sunny and 75. Showers arrive late tomorrow night. We're breezy, 60. Showers end Saturday, a high of 80. Then look for it to be sunny and cooler on Sunday.
Thank you, Rob. Back with Shawn Hogan this morning live in the studio on the Newsmaker show. Well, Shawn, you've got Democrat congressional candidate Tracy Mitrano making several appearances in Allegheny County Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, she's going to make stops in Wellsville and Cuba and a number of other places in Allegheny County, celebrating Allegheny County History Week. Also having a roundtable discussion in Angelica at the Black Eyed Susans, and visiting the Cuba Opera House, Palmer Opera House in Cuba. So she's getting around this weekend, a lot of opportunity to interplay and meet Tracy Mitrano. Obviously, she had her kickoff last week in Corning, which was very well attended. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but they said they had a huge crowd at the Radisson Hotel in Corning, and obviously very well received. When she ran for Congress 2 years ago, came, I think, within 5 points of Tom Reed, and immediately announced within a week after the election that she was going to rerun and seek the Democratic nomination and for the 23rd Congressional District. Tracy is a very intelligent woman, and she's got a vast amount of experience, and she's a formidable candidate. And if she gets out there and talks about the real issues, Congressman Reed has a fight on his hands, and I think he realizes that.
Shawn, are there any other candidates for any of the other seats in the upstate GOP? Anybody running against Senator O'Mara or Assemblyman Palmisano or Giglio? Any of those seats at the moment?
No.
Marjorie Burns?
No, they're not up this year. They're up next year. As the same as congressional races.
Sure.
They all ran last year. So this year is basically local elections, like mayoral elections. They have common council elections. They have common council elections and town board elections. Village elections are always held in March, and they kind of do their own thing. But town offices are up, and city offices are up, and like in Hornell, the races are city chamberlain, and I believe she is unopposed. And you have alderman races, and I think you have 3 contested races. The rest are unemployed. The contested races are in the 7th Ward, where you have the incumbent Fred Lehman running against Valentine on the Republican ticket. Fred Lehman is the incumbent, and I've done at least in my 10 years married, did a great job. He showed up, he participated, and was eager to help his constituency. The other contested race is in the 9th Ward, where you have Ron Naska running again against Shinenbarger, Dr. Shinenbarger. That'll be a hard-fought race. Two great guys, two guys that how that election will be run by going door to door. And the other one is an open seat, Joe McKay's seat. Joe McCain resigned from the council or didn't seek re-election. And so you have a newcomer, 2 newcomers. You have John Allison, who is running as a Democrat. John Allison lives on Maple Street. He's a union electrician. And then and his opponent is newcomer to politics, Molly Liberto. And that will be another race that'll be won by knocking on doors and talking to the voters. So I think those are the 3 contested races in Hornell, and I believe they'll be fun to watch.
Shawn, what do you make of the whole vaping issue? There's been a lot of news about vaping. There's been some deaths associated with it. I'm always wondering if it's not being exact. I don't smoke myself, but I always wonder, considering it's not, tens or dozens of thousands of people, is it exaggerated a little bit? I'm not sure.
Well, I think you have to look at it. Vaping's been around for a while, and it's just a recent rash of respiratory illnesses and things of that nature that have caused concern and caused government to hit the pause button on that a little bit. I think basically it's what they're putting in the solutions, and it's really not a regulated industry, so you don't know what you're breathing in. Now, some people will say it helped me quit smoking, vaping, it helped me without the dangers of all the other chemicals and all that stuff. But who knows, and how do you know what goes into those solutions, those liquid solutions? So I think it bears hitting the pause button, and to really to protect, to try to protect particularly teenagers, young children from the possible permanent health problems that could be caused by this. I mean, look at the number of deaths you had and the number of people that have been placed in coma and on ventilators. So I think it's good that they look at it. I think that not enough is done probably on the other end of tobacco products. It all depends, and like I say, special interests control pretty much what goes on in this country, whether it's the tobacco industry or the gun industry, and they pretty much will dictate what happens legislatively. The tobacco industry, there was a long road coming. They tried to say this. There was no evidence that cigarette smoking harmed your health. Well, obviously we know it does, and causes cancer and circulatory problems and everything else. Is that they paid billions of dollars to the states to help start smoking cessation programs and things of that nature, but the problems still exist. You can put taxes on it. You can raise the age to 21 to buy, but it's still a problem. So, we've got to be, I guess, less hypocritical in the way we look at things, and take a big look at everything. You can't protect people. You can't put them in a cocoon or a plastic bubble. They're going to do what they want to do, but I think you can protect the most vulnerable, and that's our youth.
Good talking to you this morning, Shawn Hogan, the Steuben County Democratic Chair and Hornell IDA consultant. Thanks for coming in.
It's great to be here.